Hey, what's up?
Hey, what's going on, Juan?
Pretty good, man. Yeah, dude, I'm just so curious. Like, how did you become you? I mean, you're 21 years old and you have this restaurant, you have a food truck, from what I heard, and you also have a this physical place. What's your story? I mean, just feel free to start from literally you're born and now you're here. Like, what happened in between?
Yeah. I'll provide a lot of details on my youth because it is relevant. Um, so I grew up in Cape Charles, Virginia. It's a peninsula that comes off of Maryland. It's called the Eastern Shore, of Virginia. It's at the very bottom. And growing up, have a phenomenal family, especially my parents. And throughout school, I was always sort of top of the class in terms of grades. And then when I hit high school, all of a sudden everything just fell apart. I started making C's, and once I made my first C, I was like, oh, this is new to me. And I just kind of almost gave up on it. There was a lot of, am I going to use this in my day to day? There was no really urge for me to try, or at least I justified that in my brain because I was extremely lazy at the time. And that was throughout high school. And then when I hit senior year, I was like, okay, now I got to actually figure out a trajectory for my life. And I just happened to come across a YouTube video on how to make a smash burger. Made my first burger. I've never cooked really anything prior to that. Actually, funny enough, I didn't try my first burger until I was 13 years old. I'll get into the massive irony of my life being an incredibly picky eater, but made my first burger. Wasn't half bad, and I was like, okay, you know, maybe there's something here. The next 6 months after that burger, I just got like hyper obsessed with trying to perfect the burger. I mean, smashers didn't even come into my mind until, I was very confident in the product after showing it off to friends, family, and they actually enjoyed the burger. And watching them experience that, was like one of the first times I felt proud in my life, like, oh my goodness, I created that and they're enjoying it. Um, so that was sort of a speed run of my upbringing to get to starting my first food trailer in Cape Charles. After that point, I hired all my best friends. My parents gave me a $40,000 personal loan, and first summer it was more of a side gig for me. My parents really want me to try college, so I didn't really take Smashers full head steam at first. It was just 3 month operation in between college, and it took off. And then the only thing at college I could think about was Smashers. So after one semester of showing up to about 5 classes, I decided to drop out and took this thing more seriously.
After one semester.
Yep.
So, what about high school didn't like resonate with you? Like, is it just like the format, the classes?
So leading up to ninth grade, everything was pretty easy. There was light homework. Even when there was homework in eighth grade, I could get by without doing it and maintain B's and A's. And then they actually like required something out of you in high school, and I didn't do any outside work. And I was just not a fan of. I justified in my brain that a lot of the knowledge I was learning was not going to be things that I wanted to use. In high school, I developed a big love for financial literacy. The first sentence of my senior speech was, I like money. I love investing, credit cards, everything around the finance space. So that was sort of where I found joy in that education. And that's paid off a lot of benefits for the numbers behind the scene in the restaurant industry. But yeah, it was just truthfully, probably from a lazy standpoint, I just didn't want to do it.
Well, that's cool. Yeah, and that's something that you were interested in, and you just wanted to just make money or just sort of be like interested in how like the business side of things worked. So what were you doing? So you were watching like YouTube videos, like so you go to high school, which is basically like daycare. You go there, you're bored, you don't really like much what you're doing. So do you go to like do you do sports? What YouTube channels like were you watching? What books were you reading? Like what were you doing like with your life? Because up until the point where you found that random YouTube video about the burgers, you said that you weren't really obsessed about anything up to that point.
Yeah, so
Um,
you mentioned sports. I was really good until about 13 years old, and that's when everybody started getting taller, stronger. They hit puberty. I was an incredibly late bloomer. I know that might be TMI, but I didn't start hitting my growth spurt until about 17, 18, and that's important because I completely gave up in that gap of 13 to 17 in sports, something that I was like, I want to go to college playing baseball. And once I started getting outcompeted. I was like, okay, I don't see a trajectory. I don't see a life path in this realm. So I gave up on sports. And then school as well. You mentioned sort of what was I focusing on? Graham Stephan on YouTube. He was a big financial YouTuber for me. Life advice. Not the biggest fan currently of him, but Jordan Peterson was a strong role model for me to look up to. 12 Rules for Life was a very perspective changing book for me.
Mm,
So just sort of the correlation between happiness or fulfillment and taking on responsibility. Um, he stresses a lot on find the biggest rock that you can carry it, especially as a man. So that was very beneficial for me, just in terms of changing my perspective on okay, I actually need to do work. And then yeah, I mean.
mm.
So yeah, I mean, just started off with YouTube in terms of financial education. Start off on YouTube videos, Graham Stephan. Um, I'm sure there was other ones in the space, but fell in love with investing. My parents allowed me to invest $1,000 on their behalf, um, and yeah, and then burgers were the only really thing that I was good at. So I was like, okay, this makes sense to start a business in this.
Mm. Yeah, it's funny. I did the same thing with when I was in high school. I would just read a bunch of books and then just tell my mom, can I use your SSN to just open up like accounts on like Robinhood and like Acorns and
For
then yeah,
sure.
I would just basically just get a bunch of money. I used to run like this marketing company, and as a high school kid, you have no expenses, so you can just put it on into like stocks and anything you wanted. So I
Right.
could totally see that. So when you look at yourself as a person, right? Like you were doing things, and then whenever you found yourself that you weren't really competitive, you would just drop and just find the thing that you were more competitive on. So if I were to ask you today, like how competitive are you? Like,
Very competitive. In terms of the restaurant space, I believe Smashers will be a national brand. How we get there, um, there's typically two paths in the restaurant industry to get there. You can either franchise or you can do mainly corporate growth. I'm more of the fan of the corporate growth route. Unfortunately, that is slower, but it's a lot more sustainable. It's a lot more protective. It's a lot less dangerous. Um, you start taking on debt or you sign a bad deal with a franchisee, they can destroy your brand's reputation really quickly. Chick-fil-A is a good representation of somebody who does corporate growth. A lot of people think they're a franchise, they're not. In-N-Out, these are titans in the industry that are incredibly admirable, and I look up to them, especially their business practices a lot. So I would say I'm rather competitive in the space that I'm currently in. Yes.
you didn't mention Keynes. Do you look up to him or to them?
Todd Gray's, I do look up to him. In fact, our number one core value is simplicity, and I think they also follow that same model. It's just
Right,
fingers, French fries. And actually, what I mentioned about franchises, he's buying back a lot of his franchises.
right.
So yeah, Todd Graves, yeah, I look up to him as well.
Mm. So if you were to describe, like Kane's like business model, right? It's just very simple. It's just, like his whole obsession with life is just to make the best like chicken fingers ever, and just very simple. Like how is your business model compared to him or to other people in the industry?
So the burger space is obviously very competitive. Um, Smash burgers are becoming less and less unique as days go on. It is a balance between the sheer quality that you can put out, being price competitive with other companies. Because people will walk into my restaurant and they will compare me with Five Guys, Shake Shack on the higher end, but people then also will go, I get a cheaper burger at Wendy's. Um, so educating the customers, I try to do that in a humorous way through social media, on certified Angus beef, or we fresh cut our French fries. We're about to transition to beef tallow fries. Um, but I would say, yeah, just focusing on simplicity. I don't think people understand how difficult it is to run a restaurant and have 50 items on their menu and all of them be a home run. It's really arrogant to assume that. By the way, if you walk into a mom and pop shop, it's all love for the mom and pop shops, but if they have 100 menu item or 100 item menu, you know, 80% of that's going to be frozen, probably from Cisco. Um, so it's just sheer relentless focus on improving the tiny, tiny details in each one of our menu items. Um, and I think that will pay off in the long run. And the good thing that comes with, you know, two locations or three locations is you start developing purchasing power with the vendors that you are sourcing your products from. So, for example, if I have a source that's sourcing me certified Angus beef and it's $4 a pound right now, and then another company goes certified Angus beef and say I can offer this for $3.50 a pound. You know, with the amount of volume we would do over three locations, that's a lot of margin that they're willing to give us. So I can go up to my current vendor and say, listen, your competitor is offering me this price. You're going to have to match us or I'm going to transition. So then you can start lowering your margin and then you can start lowering menu cost, which in turn brings in more volume of customers because they see more pretty numbers.
So you have a lot of focus on just figuring out like your margins and just trying to get as low as possible.
Yeah, I want to, yeah, because I mean, there is a balance, right? I mean,
Right.
you want to make sure that you're able to scale efficiently and effectively, but also if you raise your prices too much, then customers are just never going to come in. So, like Five
Mm.
Guys and Shake Shack, there's a whole greed conversation that I could go there, but we'll avoid that.
So when you went to, so you were doing your things, 3 month thing, and then you went with the food truck and then do the actual place. What made you sort of make the jump and actually open, take a lease and do everything else?
Yeah, I think this goes back to the benefits of starting young. I really had nothing to lose. I had no kids, no pets to take care of. Um, And I didn't mention this previously, but in that sort of gap of giving up on sports or school, there was a deep insecurity about myself. I just didn't like who I was. And in a way, I feel I've always been ambitious. I'm trying to chase the cheese, but also to the same degree, I have a cat chasing after me, metaphorically, meaning that person that I'm trying to run away from. So any sort of growth opportunity that I see, for example, starting a restaurant is a lot harder of a task than a 3 month food truck operation. So I was excited at that challenge, and that was the reason that I pushed forward.
So you didn't like the version of yourself or like a version
And
of yourself?
yeah, no, not at all. When I was probably 14 through 16, 14 through 17, honestly, 14 through 18, yeah, I was just not I didn't like how I carried myself, how I articulated myself, who I hung around. Um, just was not a fan. And I knew I needed to change. So
Could you elaborate like a little more into like what exactly, because people in high school could be watching this right now and then they may feel like the same way that how you felt.
yeah.
Uh,
Um,
like yeah. And how
so
you over, you know, like you basically figure, okay, I don't like this version about myself and like I'm gonna make myself better.
right.
Just the whole picture.
Yeah, that's a great question. Initially it was physically. Um, Given the fact that I was a late bloomer, I wasn't tall, I was sort of chunky, I was very weak. So I started going to the gym after Smasher's food truck. Um, I'm trying to get down to the core reason of why I ended up taking the leap to, want to decide to grow. A lot of it was probably based out of ignorance. Before
Okay.
starting the food truck, I didn't know what the food industry and how difficult it would be. Um, but also, it was to the same point where it was like, okay, I have nothing to lose. I don't have a clear life path right now. Let me just take this leap, see what happens. And if you put your personal identity on the line, you'll be very surprised what you can make happen in terms of a lot of fear from people starting their own business is the fear of failure. But if you put your identity on the line, failure doesn't seem like an option, at least in my you know
And it's yeah, and especially after those 4 years of high school where you probably had that chip in your shoulder of trying to do something different. Is that accurate?
yeah, and I'll say too, when I was 13, it sounds so artificial and silly, like 13, 14 years old. I went to a school where I grew up, and then when I went to boarding school in high school, and
Okay.
completely new people. I never met them in my entire life. I just became a shell. And at the school back home, in terms of the hierarchy, this is why it sounds so silly. I was, sort of top of the class, maybe in grades, but also in terms of the social hierarchy. And I
Sure.
lost all that at high school. And that, drop of status, like I said, I can't emphasize how silly this was, but it did mean a lot to me, was like, okay, I'm never going to be at this point. I was invisible to everybody. Nobody would notice me. And that's where I derived a lot of my fuel.
Mm. So you think if you would have never gone to that boarding school, you would have retained whatever social status that you had before?
Yes. Maybe when it comes to status, yes, but how I felt about myself, no. I don't think that would have changed, regardless of where I was.
Because you still had that insecurity. It was just a matter of, how clear is it on your face? And going to the boarding school was more clear for you? Is that
Yeah, because completely new people, completely new teachers. I didn't try at all in school. People didn't really, want to hang out with me because I was just in my room majority of the time. I wasn't a fan of myself, so I didn't want to share that to the world.
mm. So when you look at yourself now, how fan of yourself are you right now?
Yeah, I would say that insecurity has shifted into just being more self-critical.
Okay.
As far as, like there's controllable insecurities, and then there's this stuff that you can change about yourself.
Right.
I've alleviated a lot of my controllable insecurities, but as far as like pushing myself, that feeling has never gone away. And it's not, I don't want to make this sound off like I'm coming off as ungrateful. I'm incredibly grateful for that
Right.
feeling. It's got me to where I am, and but yeah, I'm very hard on myself.
Mm. I always remember this quote of like how your greatest strength is also your greatest like weakness and vice versa. Because you're so critical, that also makes your business a lot better. Like if you weren't, that probably wouldn't have like worked out.
For sure.
So could you describe that moment when you had like the first catering job, which actually your graduation, right? And like, you had to invite your friends and from that point you said there was a lot of there was a lot of insecurity, and now you have to bring your friends and your family and you're doing this thing that is new, it's weird, it's not as fancy as doing something else like going to college or whatever people do after they graduate from high school. Like what do you feel that in that moment, or were you just focused to just grow this thing? Like what just describe the feeling that you had.
So specifically, are you asking the feeling of when I was catering the high school graduation? Like,
Yeah. And
uh,
like you had to figure like that was the first step where you had to figure out all the logistics of well what's to come a lot later in the path.
yeah, I would say I've always had a delusional, I guess, sense of arrogance about the whole process. I believe that, especially after the first summer, and this is an important detail to go back to. In the beginning, I was scared. My nobody had a reason to believe in me.
Right.
Past behavior is the best predictor of future behavior, and that sort of infected my mindset going into that first summer, and the catering, the graduation. The cool thing about the food industry, if you make a good product, people will keep coming back, and that forces you to work. Like we would operate 11 to 5, 5 days a week in our first summer, and I would be working on those two off days as well, and there would be 60 to 80 hour weeks nonstop consistently, which was like brand new to me. And it'd be like 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock would be typically slow for another food truck. But my product, thank God, was so good that it forced me to take their order, even though I wanted to sit down and take a break. So it was just
Right.
nonstop work that whole first summer. And my brain watched my actions throughout that summer, and I realized, okay, you're actually capable of doing something. Not only that, but I felt I had a little bit more left in my tank if I needed to push myself even more. So that day-to-day action for that consistent period of time allowed me to believe in myself. And then after that is where I developed sort of that delusional sense of arrogance where Alex Hormozy, I think, just said it best, and it's very simple. It's just you're going to do what's required if you want it bad enough. And that has proven true. So,
I want to get into the little specifics of finances.
yeah,
People might be watching this and they want to know, okay, like how do you finance your growth? So after you got your 40K loan, how do you finance that growth into getting a store and everything else after that?
gotcha. So we had a 40K loan. Started the Smashers the first summer with the food
Right.
truck. Dropped out of college, ran the Smashers food trailer for the second summer. I also started a ice cream truck. It was so stupid. I called it creamers. So you get smashed and you get creamed because I'm a child. I'm an idiot. Uh, and that did okay. It was not extremely prosperous. So after that summer, I decided to sell the ice cream truck. And that's when I went on the hunt for the next restaurant, was after that second summer of running Smashers food truck. After that
Okay.
point, I collected a decent amount of profits, even though it was only a 3 month operation. Um,
Right.
the place I operated, Cape Charles Beachfront, was incredibly busy during the summer season. As soon as the winter gets cold, it's a ghost town. So we did very good numbers. And then I planned to have the restaurant before the third summer of Smashers Cape Charles. However, it took a lot longer than expected. So we ran the third summer, and then about mid-August, right when Cape Charles Food Trailer closed, we opened the restaurant just September 1st, the month after. The profits that I've garnered from that uh, went into that, as well as I had to reborrow a similar size loan. It was just over $75,000 from my parents to start the restaurant. So I have extreme assistance that a lot of people just don't have access to. And like I said, beyond just the financial uh, assistance my parents have given me, I mean, I don't, if you put my parents toe to toe against any other set of parents in the world, I think my parents are coming out on top. They're just amazing. Um, so yeah, that's sort of how I got to the restaurant part.
So they just have full belief in you and what you're doing. Like
Not
no
initially.
doubt.
We'll say not
Okay.
initially, but yes, they do believe in me.
What do they do for a living? Like also like entrepreneurs or something else
Yes.
completely
Yeah.
different?
So my dad has a golf cart rental company in Cape Charles, and then my mom is a nutrient management. Her job is a little hard to explain, but essentially she takes soil from farmers and tells them what's in it and all that sort of stuff. But
Mm.
she's an independent business owner, yes.
So you both have that in your DNA, and you
Yeah,
probably
yeah.
grew up seeing all of that. So they could definitely see themselves in you in a sense.
Mhm.
So how did you choose the Norfolk premium outlet location? Was it like foot traffic? Like what metrics were you looking at?
Yeah, so as I mentioned before, Cape Charles is just incredibly seasonal. So starting a restaurant on the Eastern Shore of Virginia is almost there's a high likelihood of failure. So I knew the 757, the Norfolk, Virginia Beach, Chesapeake area was where I wanted to really start my brand. I chose Norfolk not intentionally. I wanted to do Virginia Beach initially.
Okay.
Norfolk, where we're located, is right on the border of Norfolk and Virginia Beach. I cold called probably about 80 to 90 commercial realtors. Majority of them would not take my business because they didn't believe in me. Um,
Because
and
of your age or because of
yeah,
what?
because of my age, they thought I that as well as where I derive some fuel. People not wanting to do business with me just because they didn't think I would be serious about it.
How do
Luckily,
they know your age? Just from the call. Like how do they know who you are?
yeah, I mean, typically I would over the phone call.
Okay.
I sound, a lot younger, but I met with a lot of them at
Got
these
it.
specific locations. Luckily, I found a person named Chanda Chan. She is phenomenal. She took me under her wing, called me her little brother, and I called her, and the location that we currently have was not even on the market. It wasn't listed. It was just 2 days available, and I called her just luckily, and she's like, "I might have a location for you," and did a tour, loved it.
Wow. You must be so grateful to her that
Oh,
she
we're going to the next restaurant within 8 months, and I'm going to use her. So,
Oh wow. Good for her that she actually believed in you. So you're managing, from what I read online, roughly 40 people or so, 30 to 40 people. You did not manage anyone before, just besides hiring your friends in the beginning. What have you learned about management, managing people, hiring, everything that entails? Because at this point, in the beginning, it's just about like how do you make the burger and just all these specifics. And then as you grow, it's all about managing people. How have you learned? How do you learn to
yeah,
do that?
that's a great question. If anything, this last 365 days has been such a leadership journey, and I strive every day to try to be a great leader. I will admit I'm not a great leader. There's a lot of time, there's a lot of experiences that you need to have to understand how to handle certain situations. What I will say is trying to become more articulate, being able to communicate your thoughts and feelings and your ideas in the best way possible is been the best strategy for me leading at such a young age. I think me communicating my vision to what I call A players, people in the industry that are much older than me, have worked in general manager positions. They know what the restaurant industry is all about, has been probably my biggest strong suit. And not only, on paper they work for me, but I learn a lot more from them than they are learning from me. And I've had a lot of mentors that work for me. And it sounds silly, but that's you know, I mean, that's huge. When it comes to hiring and firing and what we look for in candidates, we really want to show them what it means to actually put on a Smashers t-shirt. Now, you either have person A, somebody who sees my social media and they walk in and they say, tight shit, I want to work for you guys. Just like completely, they just see our social media, they think it's silly. They walk in, they don't actually think this is a job. Or you have person B, people come in organically. They see the potential growth opportunities with a young company. That is sort of what you want to look for is the person applying for the job, but they're also asking questions of, okay, what's next if I work, difficult? Where you showed me your vision. Where could I fit in on that if I provide value to your company? That is typically a very good response. And those people who ask those sort of questions are some of my best employees. But yeah, I mean, what I would say leadership wise, I just have so many good leaders on my team that I get to learn from. But I will say the number one thing that is important as a leader is communication.
Is it communicating your vision or just like the tasks? Like, how would you say communicating?
If somebody's doing something incorrectly, being able to communicate why you need to do it this way, not that it's just company standard, maybe explain
Mm,
why we do it this way, why it's more beneficial for the customer, etc. You do not want to just be a dictator and just say, no, you're not doing it that way. And then,
mm.
they build resentment. They don't understand why. Um, yeah.
What was it like to fire the first person ever?
Um, it was scary. I will say that. Unfortunately, I handled it over a phone call because I was so scared. This person actually, I fired him the first day of Smashers, and this person knew me for the last 3 months. He actually assisted me with, putting in some chairs in the restaurant in the booth. He Unfortunately, during training day, there's a situation. I'm not going to get into too many specifics, but there was a drug issue involved, and I had to terminate him, and it was sort of a nerve-wracking experience, but it was definitely a necessary one, and I'm glad I had it on day one. Um, rip that Band-Aid off.
Hmm. Good for you and good for the restaurant. So
Yeah.
you've mentioned that you don't play video games, you don't drink, you don't do all these sorts of things, and like the thing that you like to do is just to work. Um, I think that's awesome, and a lot of people think the same thing. But so many people who may be, 21 or whatever, they may not feel the same way. Like they feel like this YOLO like mentality of like, you only live once, like you have to enjoy all these things. Did you ever think about you're not living like your quote unquote youth life and all these things that people think about? Like, how do you think through this? And what would you say to people who may feel like they just love their work, but society just tells them like, no, you have to go to parties, you have to quote unquote enjoy whatever that means.
Yeah, no, I get that a lot where it's people think I don't have a life, or they try to insult me by saying at least that person has a life. I get
Sure.
that a lot, especially from very close people. And I, it just comes from a place where I don't really care. I think people have the choice to live their life as they want to. And I would be lying to say I don't have that thought where I see, buddies posting something where they're at a party or they're at a club or whatever they may be doing. And I'm like, okay, they're the same age as me. They seem to be having a lot of fun. And it's going to sound incredibly corny, but when I find myself at those, I used to have bonfire parties or whatever, I would find myself just thinking about work.
Yeah.
So it really doesn't bother me when somebody says, you should probably balance your life. I don't think they really understand what it takes for what I'm trying to do. Um, there is a big price tag with trying to build a great company that a lot of people are not willing to pay the price for, and I think that's probably my biggest advantage. Yeah,
Mm. You're willing to pay the price,
yeah,
and you're not, and same. You just yeah, I've always been doing some sort of like, see things even when I was little, like starting businesses, writing, and doing all sorts of things. And everyone will tell you like, oh, like you just, you live your life and all these things. And they didn't really understand like when you're doing something that you just love so much, you just want to do that and you don't want to do anything else. And everything else is just not as exciting.
yeah. And
Uh,
I do want to add on to that too, because people think that you're going to stumble and just find your passion. I think it's a little silly to think that I feel like I picked up a spatula for the first time and said, "Oh my goodness, I want to flip burgers for the rest of my life." Um,
yeah,
you need to be able to, luckily it was one of my first things I tried, but as a young person, you need to try a lot of different things. And it's a lot of people don't understand that it's unreasonable for you to not suck at something that you just tried. My first burger it wasn't terrible, but it definitely wasn't good, nowhere near to where it is now. Once I got
right.
really good at making a burger, then I became passionate and then I became fulfilled, about making burgers. And that's where that obsession, that's where, you're passionate about your art, your craft, whatever it may be, comes into play. Christopher? Yes. Hey, what's going on, boss?
How you doing?
Hey, Juan, can I call you back if possible? I got an interview coming in.
All right, all right. Take care.
All right, see you, brother. Thank you.
All right, bye-bye. How did the interview go?
Good. Yeah, good. Promising
What was
candidate.
it about? Just a quick video thing or
No, no, it was for a position at my company.
oh cool. So like a job interview then.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Did the person get it or no?
I set up another interview with him. It's gonna be with my COO.
So is it for like some sort of like executive role
I'm
or I don't know.
curious. So let me ask you, what are you gonna do with this video footage?
Put it up, but we can stop it if you want.
No, 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 like immediately.
Up to you. It's your
Well, the
call.
reason I ask, I'm just gonna refrain from the position type, just out of my own interest.
Okay. Yeah. No, look, this is all for your own for your or benefit. So if it doesn't help, we'll cut it. If it helps, we'll keep it. But yeah, cool. Well, hope it went well.
Appreciate it.
Um, anyway, we were at a point where we were talking about I guess we'll pick it up from there. But the ice cream shop. So you started the ice cream shop and then you just sort of like didn't work out. You just we'll sell it and that's it. Um, why and like how do you know you wanted to just not do it? Like why weren't you obsessed about ice cream as much as you were about the making
Yeah,
smash burgers?
so that was Alex Ramosi talks a lot about focus and the woman in the red dress. Once you start making money or once you become successful in business, you start to see a lot of distractions and you become, you know, I guess a little arrogant to the fact that if you're running two business, you assume that you can do it better, both businesses, than somebody else who's doing it. There was already
Yeah.
two really delicious ice cream spots in Cape Charles. The reason I started the ice cream truck is because I saw an opportunity to meet the customers at the beachfront as opposed to them walking a couple blocks to go to the ice cream shop. Um, would it come down to was the idea of the ice cream truck bad? No. Was my execution bad? It was absolutely terrible. I was a middleman for Blue Bunny. I sold like these, like the SpongeBob ice creams, those Blue Bunny, just sort of popsicle kind of type ice cream. So
Yeah.
that was the reason it wasn't, prosperous.
I'm sure you've gotten negative feedback at some point, either as a Google review or someone just being mad at you. How do you deal with it and how do you improve from it?
Yeah. Depends who says it. The hate that I get on social media, I find funny because a lot of people miss the joke. But I would say the ones, I've had one person that really stood out and I got a lot of fuel from was actually one of the commercial realtors that I mentioned before. He straight up just told me, I don't want to be a part of your story if you fail. And I really internalized that. And I sent him an email trying to prove myself, like, you don't know me. I worked super hard. It was incredibly embarrassing. It just came from a place from desperation. But that comment, I internalized and I said, all right, mother trucker, you'll see. And yeah, when I talk about fuel, I think it's important to get it where you can. Um, if you're frustrated at your life like I was, that can be an extremely popular source of fuel. You don't necessarily need people to hate on you to get fuel. Um, but sorry, I went on a bit of a tangent there.
So like the fuel today is definitely like you still have that, like the need to like prove yourself and like you will never stop, perhaps. But you also have this other fuel to make like the best smash burger in the world. So you have these two fuels. Um, is that roughly accurate, or are there more fuels to your drive and to your motivation to that?
Yeah, I would say a big part is trying to make my parents proud. I would say in like the darkest times, because in the restaurant industry, some days will suck, and think about everything that they've done for me, have pushed me um, through the tough days, and I lean on that thought a lot. Yeah.
Hmm. Your parents. Is there anyone like anyone else that you want to make proud besides yourself, or that's mostly it?
I do have a pressure that I feel that I put on myself that I feel I have a reputation I need to maintain. Seems like every
Hmm.
year I try to scale my business to, I don't know. There's a quote that I really like where it's just glory is fleeting. You need to maintain, that, and maybe that comes from a sense of insecurity. I don't know. Uh, but yeah, I put pressure on myself for that.
Yeah. No, yeah. I mean, there's so much today in our culture about just trying to understand all these things about ourselves. And like sometimes it doesn't matter. You just do whatever it is you want to do and, you know, um, not just meditate throughout your life and do nothing,
Right.
which is a lot of people seem to be doing for some reason.
Yeah.
Uh, um, let's talk about like social media, right? Like that has been your your thing, or one of the things about your story. First, was it always intuitive to you that you always needed to do like social media? And second, how did you arrive at that style? Because most
So
restaurants, go
yeah.
ahead.
So when I started Smashers the first summer, I was terrified to post. When I tell people to put their identity on the line, I did not do that in the beginning of starting my food truck. I posted one post leading up to it. It was about a month prior, and then like a quick in the morning opening day post. And then that whole 3 month summer, I posted either 4 or 5 times in total. And it was just like pictures of my food truck or maybe just like a single burger. After that, I got a little bit more confident. I started posting, or a little bit more confident, a little bit more time freed up, and I could focus a little bit more on social media. But it was still, a burger picture, picture of the staff. It was never really like a funny video that we do now. And that led up to the restaurant. When I started the restaurant, my time got very locked up, especially in the beginning. It was a lot of 100-hour weeks, and I sort of put social media on the back burner. And when I did do a post, it was kind of pathetic. It would not be like educational. It wouldn't be funny. I would maybe make a 5 second video and be like, "Why the hell has this not gone viral?" I didn't really understand it, so I made a video talking about how I'm going to bring on somebody independently, a social media manager. Um, I did briefly for about 2 months, ended up letting him go. And then I went on to the next marketing manager, about 2 to 3 months, ended up letting him go. Found a new one, my third one, third time's a charm. Dylan, this guy is absolutely phenomenal, game changer. And that was simply just me raising my budget on my marketing budget for him. And I changed the style of videos because when you look at restaurant marketing, I was very irritated with how corporate it looked. Um, they tend to just stay strictly to the trends, and the ones that are very successful or have a lot of followers just seem to be the ones that get to those trends quicker, or they have their own little spin on it that's just a little brief, 3 to 5 seconds. And I'm by no means saying that I have the best restaurant marketing ever. I was just
Sure.
personally irritated. The content that I like to watch is kind of silly, stupid stuff, but it is eye grabbing. So I sort of took that perspective when I started marketing seriously, and that was probably around 4 months ago when I started putting myself online a lot. And I think my biggest advantage is my age when it comes to this. I mentioned this on my Instagram story yesterday, actually, where it's just I can hide behind the wall and the barrier that I am a 21-year-old kid, 21-year-old kid. If somebody goes, "What the hell was that video? That is insane. Why would he post that?" I, I I do feel a sense of security where I can write that off like I'm just a kid. Like I don't know what I'm actually doing. Um, that kind of freedom for a person like me is, a little dangerous. My humor is very stupid and can be very risky at times. If you notice though, on my videos, I always go right up to that line. Maybe I go a step or two past it sometimes,
Sure.
but I go right up to that line, and I've been doing that my whole life with teachers. Any sense of authority or figure of authority, I would see how far I could push it. I like pushing that life to see what I can get away with, and that's proven successful. And I just do stuff that I find funny. Sometimes it works, sometimes it's very cringy.
Right. Is that like the company is more than the burgers and everything else. It's sort of like a representation of yourself in the sense. And like if you like it, people like you who will also be your customers will also like, and they also know that the other things that the other restaurants are doing is just boring, it's corporate. And like what you're doing, it's like different. And I think like one interesting like takeaway for that from this, it's like first, like if you know like the posts you're doing are just boring and like corporate, like people also like customers also feel like the same way. And the other
100%.
takeaway, it's like being like you said, like being weird and being silly pays off, like in a sense.
Oh, 1,000,000%. Absolutely, 1,000,000%. I mean, when I was posting videos in the beginning and it got no traction because I was still figuring everything out, I would get calls. I got called from my dad saying like, "Hey, what was that video about? That was pretty weird." And that from your own father, that hits. My buddies would be like, "Dude, what's going on? Like, are you okay?" And all that sort of stuff. And then you end up finding your rhythm. If you're willing to keep embarrassing yourself for a little bit, you'll find your rhythm. I think the most cringiest part about everything is if you stop posting,
Mm.
if you give up. Um, so
Have you have you ever taken a post down after someone called you or texted you?
yes, not because somebody texted me or called me, because I thought it was going to be a brand threat. I was a little too
Okay.
risky in that video.
Mm. You know, I do find that aspect interesting of like in the beginning, like you didn't post on Instagram because your identity wasn't fully on the line, but you also probably care about what other people were thinking.
100%.
Um, like, but at one point you overcame that and like you were like fully on the line, like we'll make videos, like let's go full out. So many people struggle with that. Like they have a project or like they don't want to share about like on like an Instagram or the internet or like tell their friends because like they're too cool to tell people like, oh, I'm working on this. Um, and any words that you can say how over like basically out your posts all the time now. Um, but people just feel that for some reason. Like, how do you like? What would you tell them?
Not gonna lie, you cut out the last 10 seconds. Could you repeat the
Yeah,
last?
no. Basically, in the beginning, when people are working on these projects, either on Instagram or whatever, like they don't want to share for some reason. Um, and but you did it, like you post all the time, and like you don't have that fear. Uh, what would you
I
tell them to like overcome that fear?
At least for me, especially with the big announcements, I always like the idea of working in silence and then surprising everybody. Um, I think the fear of putting yourself online only gets better with the more times that you do it. And that's unfortunate, because then it doesn't really help people to make that first post. But um, the more times you do it, the better you get at speaking in front of a camera, the better you get at understanding the numbers behind what makes a good video, um, the better you get at filming, etc. And regardless of if you're in the video or not, and you make, a hell of a video, people will respond. I tend to stray away from comments. There are people on my team that read the comments and they bring them to me, especially the negative ones. And I'm like, don't talk to me. Like, don't bring that up to me. Like, I don't want to hear that. Like, it's not, it doesn't bother me too much just because like I know, I feel like I know the perspective of somebody who's behind a phone hating. I find it embarrassing, but, you know, if somebody really close to me says, "Hey, why'd you do that? Why you look like that in that video?" Then, I'll be fully transparent. It affects me. It's like, damn, why did I do that in the video? Sometimes I go off my rocker. So
Right. How do you think about the interior design of the store? Like the specific items, like the colors. Is there anything or how do you think about it? Do you specifically personally decide everything or you have people who help you? Like, what's your
yeah,
thinking there?
I would. So I asked my mom a lot for this. That was my biggest fear starting the restaurant. Like I knew the floor plan, I knew where the grill and fryers all needed to go, but when designing the inside of the restaurant, I knew obviously my color scheme because of my logo, but where chairs were going to be placed, where the booths were, what pictures, who's going to the painting. Um, it was very ugly in the beginning. It wasn't until I got a lot of different perspectives to optimize, and now we have a painting of a food trailer with one of my employees from Cape Charles. On the wall, and that's going to lead into my next restaurant. It's going to be another employee with a food trailer in the background. It's going to be a theme on
Mm,
my restaurants. Um, and then we got better pictures on the wall. It's just something that developed with time. It was very
mm.
ugly in the beginning, very, very ugly.
Yeah, and you sort of like iterate over time. There's a picture of you on your website, and I'm just curious to see like, just tell me what you were thinking there or feeling, specifically right here. Like you're just so like thrilled. Like, what were you thinking at that moment?
Yeah, that was a very happy moment for me to show up in front of a full staff. Because like I said in the beginning of my story, it was just like my buddies that I would bust balls with, and like we would be watching an NFL game, and I'd be like, "Hey, you want to work for me this summer?" And they said yes. Like that was my hiring process in the beginning. So going out into a completely new area, going on Indeed, these ads, not knowing anybody, and
Right.
it was. I'll be honest. In the beginning, it was almost like they were interviewing me. Like I was trying to prove myself to them. It could be a freaking 16-year-old teenager in high school. This is their first job. And I'm like stuttering during the interview because I was absolutely terrified of what they thought about me. Like they're looking at me like I'm a 20-year-old kid. And I'm like, oh God, do they think that? What do they think about me? All that sort of stuff. In the beginning, my interviews would be like, welcome to Smashers. And I would do a whole tour of like, here's where the girl's going to be going. It's going to be like a conveyor belt. Here's the fryers, all that sort of stuff. I wouldn't ask them, like, you ever worked in the restaurant industry? Like, I was just like, look at this. I have a restaurant. Please tell me you're going to work for me. Like, that's literally how it was
Yeah.
at the beginning. But that picture, that was the biggest fear of starting the restaurant. I was like, how do I get a staff of 15 people to work for me? So that's probably the reason for the facial expression.
And you did it. I mean, you have many people here. I mean, you have a lot of people in this picture.
Yeah.
Um, that's cool. And I noticed you also use owner as the whole bill for the website. Like, what has that been like? Just because like otherwise you would have been probably have to build the website yourself or whatever. Do you like using owner, or like what advice would you give them?
So long term, we're going to transition to an independent where we'll bring in a website designer and they'll build it out ourselves and we'll own full rights to that website. We are actually transitioning away from owner because the customer fees they tack onto it are a little too much for my liking. Um, but owner is pretty good, especially on the SEO front. Like if you type in
Mm.
best burgers in Norfolk or burgers in Norfolk, Virginia will be number one. And a lot of that is due to Smashers. Sorry, owner. Yeah, owner's pretty good. Pretty customer friendly, but we are transitioning away.
And mostly the biggest feedback would just be just the fees are too high for your preference.
Fees. The biggest thing for us too is it doesn't integrate with our loyalty program. So
Mm.
we want to be able
Right.
to, somebody comes in and they have points on their phone, tap through our Toast point of sale.
Got it.
Doesn't allow that.
And what website do you use or what company do you use for your loyalty points?
We're currently using Owner, so they have a separate platform, but you can
Okay,
only do
got
it
it.
online. But we are transitioning to a company that it's called AppFront,
Yeah.
and that integrates with Toast.
Okay, cool. Interesting. Yeah, no, owner, I've seen a lot of interesting things, especially how they just build the website, the apps, and everything. So, like, if you're starting out, it's probably a good option to use it.
Yeah.
When you look at the vision of the whole company, so you're like, what do you imagine? Like, are you imagining like 3,000 restaurants all over the world, that you fully own all of them, right? Like, what else? Like, if you have to put that picture in concrete terms.
I do like looking long term, 5 years out, 10 years out, and trying to see where Smashes are going to be. Um, However, I've shifted my focus a lot to Elon Musk and Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs talked about it. Elon Musk is the best representation of this, where it's signal to noise ratio. Um, Instead of worrying about the long-term decisions, you focus on the signal, things that push your business forward in the short term, the 3 to 5 things that you need to do every single day. And every single day that I do not handle at least a piece of signal every single day, I get very frustrated myself.
Mm,
These fires that come up metaphorically, like a situation happens at the restaurant that takes 2 hours out of my time from doing something, pushing my business forward. That's what you would classify as noise, things that don't push
right.
business forward. So, ideally, obviously, I would love to be, I wouldn't say a number in mind. My next big goal is to have 5 brick and mortar locations. But my signal right now, what I'm focusing to is how to make sure that my systems and infrastructure is strong enough that I can move on to the second brick and mortar without having to worry about the current one.
So the top three signals for you would be like infrastructure, and then what like the systems in place. So yeah, it would be like
So
just
yeah, I mean,
retail and everything else.
I'll actually show you. Um, Let me see. I don't know if this camera is going to be flipped the right way. No, it's not, is it?
Oh, so you literally have the signals in it. Okay,
Yeah,
so you
signal
have it
versus
right
noise. So like I can read some. So right now we have making sure this commissary is established. So commissary is for the food truck. Um, our transition to app front. Uh, uh, and then there's something, the reason why I asked what you're going to do with this content is because there is negotiations and things that are going on within my business that by the off chance the people see that could be negative for me. So that's the reason why.
No, yeah, I can cut it out. I mean,
No, no,
it
no.
doesn't
You don't
matter.
need to cut out anything.
Yeah.
But that's the reason why I'm hesitant about releasing some information right now.
Yeah. You don't want to give your, show your cards to the
For
to the
sure.
other person.
Yeah.
Um, so I mean, you literally think signal to noise, and like the noise is basically like things to avoid in your day to day.
Yeah. Finding people that can handle the noise for me. For example, my COO is the best hire I've ever had in my entire life, and he can handle situations probably better than me. So he can handle a lot of that noise as well as help me on the days that there's a little less noise, push the business forward. So yeah.
Is he one of your friends or just someone else that you hire more?
No, so he actually was going to be originally my mentor. He worked at Moe's four doors down. So we're on a strip, Smash's restaurant.
Yeah.
And Moe's is four doors down. And I had a conversation with him when I was getting lunch one day. And, just asking, he's like talking about he was on a carnivore diet. We connected over that because I used to be on a carnivore diet for a little bit. And we had a conversation. I don't even think we exchanged contact, but I interviewed him and I think he was expecting it to be a general manager position. And I
Okay.
offered him a shift manager position because my general manager position was already filled. And no, actually, sorry, that was a lie. I planned to be the general manager of my restaurant. Thank God I did not do that. So I offered him a shift manager job, which the value that he provides, shift manager is not, it's a lot further down. Um, he didn't accept. He was going back and forth. He had some issues with Moe's corporate. He was expecting a raise into an area manager. They kept delaying it, procrastinating it. I then came to the conclusion, okay, I'm an idiot. Let me hire this guy as a general manager. He declined, went back
Mm.
3 days, expecting the raise, didn't get it, joined my company 3 days later at the beginning, and now he's going to get equity October 1st. So Bobby took a risk on a 20-year-old kid, and his risk will be rewarded. So
You will. So you're the compensation that you're thinking for like these people, it's like, salary, but also like you're willing to give some equity of the company as well.
yes, and specifically, I'm not shooting myself in the foot by giving him equity of my, complete growth of that single brick and mortar. He's getting equity, but I also pay him well above market rate. Um, but I think in the restaurant industry, the labor cost is an extremely overstressed number. I think if you find the right people, especially A players, the people that are general managers, COOs, if you find those right people, a lot of things figure themselves out. Um,
Mm.
yeah, I think restaurants overstress that number because you pay somebody $5,000 more and you get a much more talented candidate. Okay, well, that much more talented candidate is going to manage turnover. They're going to keep food costs low. They're going to give you better Google reviews. And in the grand scheme of things, over a year, what that does to your top line is going to be a lot outweighing than that extra $5,000.
Right. Yeah. Good people. Always the hardest thing whatever business you're in, like finding good people.
Yeah.
When you look at the next locations that you're expanding, the next five, the next 10, are you looking at places where they had restaurants before, or like what's your thinking there? Because usually like the high expense is just in the kitchen and all the systems and like the infrastructure of the restaurant. So are you looking at places where there was a restaurant before or like completely new spaces?
So right now, the only thing I could afford would be a second generation restaurant.
Right.
The first restaurant was technically a second generation restaurant, but they gutted it completely, but it had like a similar floor plan to as a restaurant. So regardless of the equipment involved in the pre-existing restaurant, if I do decide to take over that, it would be probably replaced majority of the equipment, maybe besides the hood. If the restaurant has a hood already installed, that's a big help when it comes to your pockets. But yeah, second generation restaurant, either end cap unit on a strip again or a standalone building.
Hmm. When you look at the past 3, 4 years, roughly. A lot of things were due to hard work, but there were also a lot of luck. So when you look back, how much of it was just pure luck, but also you working really hard,
The reason why I'm in this position at my age is because of luck. Because I was born to have those amazing parents to give me the financial assistance to even start my business. Um, a bank would look at me at 18 years old and say, "Get the hell out of here." Um, to, you know, Not to undermine my hard work, but it does seem like there's a lot of situations in life that was a blessing. Um, I am one to see an opportunity and capitalize on it, but especially on the financial assistance, forget the loans for a second. To be able to sign a lease and my parents be comfortable to be the guarantor, I sign a 5-year lease, let's say 5 years, and the let's say rent's $5,000 a month, 5 times 12 is $60,000 times five.
Yeah.
That's $300,000 that they're putting their
Yeah.
name behind on my lease, because I can't just sign a lease at 19 years old with not that much money in the bank account. So that has been the biggest thing as far as progression. So yeah, I would say
Mm,
if I would put it in numbers, I would say 60% hard work, 40% luck.
mm. Yeah, always very important how just fate just plays out in that
Yeah.
sense. And also you willing to step up and making that path. Um, what advice would you give to someone in high school, college, or early, or late teenage years, early 20s about how to, you know, find a version of yourself where you're proud of yourself and not have that insecurity, but also work on a business that you're proud of.
I would say I'll give two. I would say be ruthless with dictating the conditions around your environment, the content you decide to consume, the food that you decide to consume, the people you decide to hang around with. Um, I think if you avoid majority of the distractions, you would be amazed at what you spend your time doing. And with the person that you
Mm,
become, I think you people should stop focusing really too much on the goal itself, and focusing on becoming the person that would achieve that kind of goal. Um,
mm,
then this one, I would say, don't take advice from people that doesn't have a life that you want to live. Um, a lot of people love to, if you don't want my life, or you don't want to join the restaurant industry, or you don't want something that I said, um, I don't take my advice. I would say the people who are closest to you have the loudest voices, and they are a lot of the times the people that hold you back the most. Um, so yeah.
so you wouldn't say go watch the lectures from Jordan Peterson or anything like that?
Well, I mean, it depends, right? I mean, for my, it depends what you want from life. Like if you want to be extremely successful in business, I would say freaking watch Alex Ramosi like it's a sunlight. So, um, but I don't know. What I meant by that is really the voices that are close to family members, close
Right,
friends that don't have the life that you want to live
right,
will offer you really bad advice. Um, but it's loud because they're close to you.
right. And like good advice is also context specific. So like they also want to know like you like they should know like the goals that you have and not just general things about uh, them wanting to like for you to live they like the type of life they have, like not the life that you want to have in a sense. Um, the last section here we'll do overrated or underrated. So I'll give you a topic or a statement and you tell me what you think. So
Okay.
the first one, the Founder movie, overrated or underrated?
I've watched that like 7 times. I'm gonna say underrated. I love it.
What about it? Just like the journey, like the motivation you get? I don't know.
I think his okay. Obviously, it was a little sketchy his business dealings with the people that were the original founders of McDonald's, but I think his persistence, which is what he stresses on throughout the whole movie, I think it's quite inspiring. I like the scene where they talk about you're not in the burger business, you're in the real estate business. I like the ambition behind it, and I like how that guy was sort of older gentleman and what he turned his older half of his life into. I love the founder.
Are you in the burger business or the real estate business?
Currently, the burger business. Interest rates are a little too high right now.
Will you transition at some point? Or
I have visions in mind to, if I do decide to franchise, let's say, to maintain control, to own the real estate part. But yeah, I definitely want to get into the real estate side.
so franchises, overrated or underrated?
They are overrated completely.
So do you don't like the like the incentive structure? Like what don't you like about them?
You have to be very diligent and careful with how you craft the model and who you decide to sign that franchise deal with. I'm speaking as a franchisor perspective, and I'm assuming that's the
Right,
question
right.
you're asking, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
The previous tenants to my restaurant building was a Fat Burger and a Burger I Am. Burger I Am was a national story. The CEO fled the country. They were not able to source the product to their franchisees. There's a lot of lawsuits. They ended up going bankrupt. Fat Burger was a classic example of you sign a bad deal with a bad franchisee. They had a 2.5-star Google rating. That can really hurt a brand. They will not go to another Fat Burger. A lot of those people because they experienced that one. And yeah, I mean, it's just really what it comes down to is brand tarnishment.
Mm.
You need to be very strategic, and a lot of people franchise too soon. You look at Boston Market. I mean, they blew up and then they crashed.
So if they're so bad, why do people still do them? Is it because they're not thinking about these pros and cons, or
No, they see short-term money. So, like, if I was to franchise, let's say I had the hype enough to franchise, there's a lot of franchisees banging on my door. Okay, well, there's a $40,000 franchise fee that they got to pay me. They got to pay me royalties each month. Um, yeah, I mean, it's short-term money. It's a short-term money grab for the franchise.
Mm. Right? And you have to be like mature enough to and have a vision where you want to go long term, so you don't get distracted by this, short
Yeah.
term people. Because I mean, they will come, I'm sure, for you and offer you 40K,
Oh, we've
100K,
had we've had a couple. Yeah, we've already had a couple.
and you said no, like straight out.
I said that's not what my plan is for the future, but I take their card. Who knows?
Cool. Huh. Chick-fil-A, overrated or underrated?
Business or food?
Both.
Food, I think it's probably accurately rated. I mean, they mastered sort of the chicken sandwich, but I would say their business is completely underrated. I think it's absolutely beautiful. Absolutely beautiful.
Like how they run the stores, like how they do the franchise model. Like what about it?
Franchise model, their customer service, the speed at which they can get out orders, their drive-through systems. But mainly, yeah, they own the brand, the building, the land, and then when they decide to choose an operator, you are required to work at a Chick-fil-A from 3 to 5 years. You are sent into a pool of 10,000 people of extremely strong candidates. They are extremely selective with who they decide to hire. Um, they can also fire their operators. That's why a lot of people think they're franchises. They're not franchises. They can get rid of it. If you sign an operating deal with them, they can get rid of you like that. If you don't perform to their standards. And actually, the numbers behind their business. Um, they do, I mean, around $8 to $10 million per location, but how they do their partnership with the franchise is they take a 15% rip off top line. So a lot of people won't understand this, but if you have $10 million in a single location, they take a 15% rip. That $10 million is top line. If they take a 15% rip, that's $1.5 million that they take and put into their pocket. They then split the remaining profit to the operator. Now, a lot of people are like, okay, well, that's $8.5 million. The restaurant industry, incredibly thin margins. So the fact that they're able to take a 15% rip off top line and still have enough margin to pay their operators $300,000 shows you how much money they're making. So I'm a big fan of just business Chick-fil-A.
Mm. No, I mean just looking at an average store, $8 to $10 million. That's just mind blowing. I mean, it's just so above average
Yeah.
compared to other stores. So that's, I mean, yeah, like just from that point, it's just completely
For
underrated.
context, a McDonald's I think does around 4 million per location. So
I mean,
Chick-fil-A's doing double.
and it's McDonald's, it's like the thing that everyone knows, and like they will know it, like what to expect and everything.
Right.
Um, In and out, overrated or underrated?
Again, I mean I think I've had an In-N-Out once in my life. Fries are dog. Fries are dog water. Um, but
True.
I will say underrated as well. I think once again, I mean they have such good pricing for the quality that they provide, and that's due to the fact that they have 100% ownership and they own their supply chain. I mean, just from a sheer businessman perspective, I mean it's like they own every source of ingredient, so they don't have to pay all these middlemans, beef distributors, all this nonsense. They provide, you know, it's just beautiful.
And also, like their menu is very simple too. So it's like boom, boom,
Yeah.
boom, boom, boom. So
I will hate on a
similar.
lot of burger brands. In-N-Out is not one of them. I think In-N-Out is beautiful.
Which one do you hate the
Five
most
Guys.
besides Five Guys?
I didn't mention this as part of my story. I worked at Five Guys for 4 days. The manager I worked for was my general manager at Smashers. I took him. But learning the ins and outs of these Five Guys business, it was kind of disgusting at their food cost and the margin of what they charge. If you notice, they put 5 gallons of French fries into the bag because French fries don't cost a lot of money. It's potato, a little bit of potato oil, or not potato oil,
Sure.
whatever, and seasoning. So they overload you with that and they go crazy on their burger prices. If I'm able to charge less than Five Guys at my quality burger, that's a problem because you got to think about, okay, they own some of their supply chain. They have immense purchasing power with their vendors. They can cut so much, margin. They have all their systems in line, but they charge that regardless because they built the brand, uh, I guess, to be an expensive burger. I guess.
Mm.
People just put up with it. I mean, I'm not saying it's not quality food. I'm not saying it's like good. People enjoy it, but yeah, they get away with robbery.
So you worked there just because you wanted to like reverse engineer like their systems, or
Yeah,
you want
yeah.
like
So
finding a job or something?
I first day I worked there, I put on a Five Guy shirt, walked to the bathroom, and I took a picture and I said Operation Trojan Burger, and I put it on my Instagram story. I might repost that on Smash's Instagram because I think the anniversary of that's coming up. Um,
Okay.
so essentially, I went in there to, you know, a corporation like that. They have the room for human error as close to zero as possible. They have every system, procedure optimized, how you even walk on the line. I wanted to experience what that's about. I wanted to work a day shift, midday shift, and a night shift, which I did. I wanted to see the different leadership styles. Um, but the best thing that I got from it would be the manager, but I would say the second best thing would be there was something called Five Guys University, and I got to make sure I don't say anything illegal here. All of their systems and procedures were on there, and it was like a video training course back end that I had access to for a while, and I learned a lot. I did a lot of studying from there.
Mhm. So why Five Guys and not something else like McDonald's or those burger places that you mentioned before?
I would say Five Guys is the most similar concept in terms of menu for me.
Okay.
So it's just burgers, fries, hot dogs, chopped cheese. Not they don't have a chopped cheese, sorry, but that was the most equivalent brand that I could think of. Smashers.
Mm. And like, so what have you learned in terms of branding? Because like you said, like the burgers are not that great, and like a lot of people seem to think that, but still people go in and buy those, quote unquote, overpriced burgers. So why do people go? And like, I mean, it's the branding, it's the marketing, everything else. Is there anything you've taken from that?
So yeah, marketing through social media uh, at all costs get eyeballs. There is obviously brand dangers in that perspective. So don't take that fully. You need
Sure.
to think about the videos that you put online so it doesn't destroy your brand. But as far as branding goes, we try to make sure when somebody walks into the restaurant, they are educated with the signage around the restaurant. We always have certified Angus beef. We're about to go on a big marketing push for beef tallow fries. Um, Table touches. So going out and interacting with the customers, talking about how was the burger, they ask questions, this is a delicious burger. Then we explain to them, this is how we source our product. We try to make everything as clean as possible. Brand is simply the affiliation of their experience when walking into Smashers. So
Mm,
as good customer service as possible, good food, consistent, and yeah, a warm and welcome environment and make sure they have a good experience.
mm. That's crazy that you actually did that. 4 days you work all shift, and then you also had the course, the Five Guys University thing, where you can just literally like see everything they know.
Yeah.
It's so simple, right? But like people may not do it.
But I'm telling you, I mean, his name was Jacob, and I actually made a social media video about it. I had a, I stopped working there after 4 days. About a month or two later, I shot the store a phone call, and they said he transitioned stores. So then I called that store. I said, "Hey, can I speak with Jacob?" And he answered the phone, and I said, "Hey, Jacob, if you can give this phone number a call for like 60 seconds after your shift, I believe it's in your best interest." I thought that sounded cool in my head. I was like,
He
this is
did.
what
He
this is.
does.
Yeah. And he was like, no, hung up on me immediately. So I paced around my room for 30 minutes, like, God, do I call him back? God, I'm so embarrassed, blah, blah, blah. So I called the store and I was like, "Hey, can I speak with Jacob again?" He comes back. I was like, "Hey, my name's Henry Smith. Do you remember me? I worked for like 4 days at Five Guys." He's like, "Yeah, I do." And I was like, "Do you think you could meet me at my restaurant for like a 10-minute conversation anytime you're free?" He's like, "Yeah." So we had a conversation, explained my vision. He was a fan. He joined my company. He's now my general manager at Smashers. So
I mean, you literally steal like someone from the. I mean, that's amazing. Like Five Guys should be scared that people
that
but you
poaching is
like
a very, very big thing in the restaurant industry, whether
yeah.
for good or for bad. Yeah.
I'm sure people will try to do the same thing. Is there anything you will do to like minimize that or like poaching in terms of people? Uh,
Yeah, I mean, I try to provide the best working environment for my employees as possible. I pay them above market rate. Anybody with half a brain cell can see how fun the working environment is, even though some videos are like me, like being a terrible asshole, excuse my French, mean boss. Um,
sure.
but yeah, I try to provide the best work environment as possible because you want to prevent turnover as well. So, I mean, I have a best interest at play too, but like I was going back to the labor costs, it's overstressed. If you want a good restaurant, you're going to need talented people. You're going to need to find ways to attract talented people. So
Yeah, I remember a quote about I think Todd Graves said this, like someone asked him, like are you scared about the competition, copying you and copying the same things you're doing? And he said like no, not really. I'm just scared about some 21 or 20-year-old guy who just obsessed about making the best chicken fingers in the world. That's the person I will be scared. So Todd Graves and Keynes, like overrated or underrated?
I think the business is, I think, like I said, the business is probably underrated, but the food is probably overrated. I've had Cane's a couple times. I think, get rid of that sauce. I mean, but they have the sauce, like they have the sauce. Can't do anything about it. They have the sauce, but get rid of that. They have no business. It's the
Will
reason why they
will
don't sell it in bottles.
will you make a similar sauce type in your business or not? Or
I mean, there are people that are asking, we have smasher sauce. There are
okay.
people that are asking us to bottle it. I'm very proud of that recipe. It's very simple, but it's very good.
Mhm. Next one, Wendy's, overrated or underrated?
I think Wendy's is probably on their way out. I think Burger King is probably on the way out. So I'll say overrated.
And like, I mean, they have these huge businesses. Like, why is it that they can't see a way to fix themselves? Like, what do you think?
There are, that's a good question.
Because like at some point, like you will be them, in 10, 20 years. And like you might be them in that sense. And like, why can you see that you're not great? And like, why can't you see that you suck, right? Uh,
Maybe more options coming on the scene, more better options. I think a lot of them relied on just brand recognition of people for customers.
mhm.
But that is a good question that I don't have the answer to. Why? Maybe, yeah, I don't know. But I think Wendy's, Burger King, I think I don't see a very prosperous future for them.
Chipotle, overrated or underrated?
I think Chipotle is underrated. I think that's a genius model. I think they freaking hit a home run.
Just like how simple it is, or what about it?
No, I think the appeal to try to come off as healthy, even though they're not, has been a very good strategy. I think their quick service, they have good branding,
Mm,
and they come off as extremely healthy. And a lot of people will justify in their mind that, you know, I want to eat fast food, but Chipotle is the healthiest option. So they go to Chipotle. Um, I'm not saying they're extremely
wh-
unhealthy. They're definitely healthier than McDonald's or all these other companies. But yeah,
what's the unhealthiest part about Chipotle from your eyes?
that's the reason why I'm so happy about switching to beef tallow is to avoid seed oils. They cook all of their stuff in seed oils
Mm.
and depend. I mean, here's the thing. You can get something extremely healthy at Smashers if you get a bunless burger with no cheese and then just have a bunch of vegetable toppings. Like there's ways to make Chipotle extremely healthy. So I'm not saying that, but I'm not also saying Chipotle has bad food. I think their branding is spectacular, but I think it's a little misconstrued, consumer perspective wise.
That's fair. Uh, I mean, you've definitely studied a lot of your competition. So Five Guys probably the one that you've studied the most. Like, who else did you constantly try to
Shake Shack,
study, or which one? Shake
Shake
Shack?
Shack,
What
Shake
about
Shack.
them?
I applied to Shake Shack. I didn't get the position. I didn't get the job. They knew who I was. Uh, Shake Shack, I think they're overstepping scaling wise. I don't think there's so much demand for Shake Shack. I don't think people are like, give me a Shake Shack, give me a Shake Shack. I think they have pretty packaging um, that gives them the ability to raise prices, and their branding is really good. Um, I think the business is probably underrated. but I don't think they're going to be as big as they want to be, if that makes any sense, because I think they are very ambitious, but I don't think their demand is that high for them to step the way they're stepping.
Mm. So what about do you think about like their demand? Like, is it just people are not interested in it, or like they just don't have a compelling product?
No, see what happens like when you are a brand that constantly takes advantage of pricing the way you do, when you have the option to not, customers get fed up. And then when a better option goes down next to the street, let's say an In-N-Out starts opening next to a Shake Shack, it's going to be hard to justify not going to In-N-Out. And then people will start to hate online. So yeah, that's what I would say. Like I envision once I have, extreme purchasing power, able to source, maybe buy out some of my supply chain. I want my prices to be as competitive as possible. I want them as low as possible while providing the best quality food that I can with those prices. And I think that's what In-N-Out did, and I think that's why they're one of the goats.
So you want to have a vertical integration in a sense of like if you could like just have complete control over like supply chain, like just from the very beginning all the way to the top.
Yeah. Hopefully, see, I think with In-N-Out, I don't know what their plan is. I think they moved their headquarters recently to Tennessee, but they are limited by their supply chain because they only open in California and Texas because you can't really have supply chains all over the place. Um, So if it's not too much of a limiting factor, and it depends what I want to do with my company when I hit that point. If I want to go national, it's going to be very difficult to have a supply chain owned on every single location.
Hmm. There was another restaurant. I think. I mean, they probably. I mean, they're almost out, or I think they're out. Steak something. I forgot the name.
Steak and Shake.
Yeah. I mean, they pretty much fail. Why? If
I
you if
think
you
we're talking about the same brand. Was that the brand that recently just transitioned to Betel?
No, it's like the brand. It's like they also sell like shakes and steaks and whatever. It's like red and white and black. And they also did a franchise model. Um,
Would it be like Firehouse or
no, it was called Steak Shake. It's not Shake Shack. It was like Steak something.
maybe Steak and Shake? Maybe it is a.
Yeah, that one I think. Yeah,
Um, I don't know too much into their story. I just know recently they're very bold with the moves they decided to do with their business. I'm a big
yeah,
fan.
Steak and Shake.
Yeah, they did a cryptocurrency. They're accepting Bitcoin payments. They're switched to BTL, which I am a fan of. Um, I think it was one of those brands that were dying, and they're just throwing out desperate moves, trying to get back in the groove of things.
It's cool they're trying, like not just trying to be, get sold to some private equity or something and like,
Exactly.
doing Bitcoin. Where you're just like, okay, I mean, who will
But
pay a
like
burger in Bitcoin? Who knows? But
as far as like scaling in the restaurant industry, you're not going to get extreme growth like Dave's Hot Chicken, right? That was a niche at the time that wasn't really popularized, and they blew up in 6 years from a freaking tent selling hot chicken to hundreds of locations. You're not going to get that unless your concept is tastes delicious, and is somewhat new on the market. And unfortunately for me, smash burgers are becoming less and less unique every day. I think I told you this. But standing out through quality and customer service.
and design and branding and social media and like
Yeah,
all these different things that you can probably like play around with.
that's true.
Because like I mean like the product, it's like anyone can buy the product or like make the product, right? But like why do people go to McDonald's or like Chipotle or like they all have like these things associated to them. Like you don't see it explicitly like Chipotle. Like you don't they don't say like okay, well, we're the healthiest option. Like come here explicitly at least. But in people's minds that they have that in there. Um, yeah, that's interesting. Because like you have this thing, and then like how do like the restaurant business is like the most competitive thing in the world, and
Yeah.
it's like you
Yeah, going
really
back
have to.
to you saying ask for a piece of advice, I would say number three, don't start a restaurant. There's too much variables for you to be a success.
Hmm. So why don't you jump out and do something else?
Nah, nah, nah. Because I mean, I know burgers. Like, if there was one field that I'd be interested in, it would be artificial intelligence. But I mean, I still, when it goes to just focus, since I am doing Smashers, my focus is completely on that. But I have other investments in different fields. I have other interests, obviously. But if I was to start a business today, it would probably be something around artificial intelligence. Um, I have a lot of stocks in AI. I think that's going to be the next gold mine.
Uh, what kind of AI business like would you start? Like what about like
So, for example, in my business right now, I'm using Toast Point of Sale, and I got access to Toast API. So I'm able to, there's a lot of different number systems in the restaurant industry.
Mhm.
So, because I'm most knowledgeable about that, and because I've already started automating a lot of my tasks on the back end, something that would be previously done by my general manager, and completely alleviate any room for human error of him misinputting a number or him
Right.
misforecasting, I would probably sell something to restaurant owners of that package, probably mom and pop shops of let me automate some of your tasks in the back end. Um, so yeah, that's probably just because I know the restaurant industry.
Yeah, like you know like those problems and those pain points.
Yeah,
You'd be like an owner, but like more back end in a sense.
yeah.
Mm, interesting. Cool, man. Is there anything else that you we haven't talked about or touched or anything else that you would like to say?
No, I'm not gonna lie. This is like, I guess, what would you classify this as, like a podcast, or
Conversation. I don't
it's my
know.
first time at literally doing something like this, so this was dope, and I greatly appreciate your time, Juan.
No, I was just so curious. I mean, like I saw this and like I'm also curious about people. It's like, you're born, 21 years ago, and like now you're doing this. And it's like, what has to go through your mind? Like what has to go through your story? And like we learned that, like you like from 14 to 18, like you had this deep frustration and pain. And like it's beautiful that you made it into this. And like for some reason, it's like people start and like they just get this obsession to make like the best smash burger in the world. And it's like, why? I mean, I just find that so interesting.
Right.
Um,
Well,
and
let me ask you some questions. How'd you end up here interviewing me?
I have no idea. I just saw it and I just looked you up and like, okay, like that's your email and like I'm just
Right,
gonna
but
email you.
what made you passionate about? So tell me a little bit more about what you do. Because I mean, full
Yeah.
transparency, I received an email from you, and I was like, okay, let's try this out. But I know nothing about, how did you end up here? Are you interested in just learning about different people's different stories?
Yeah. I guess like you, I'm just trying to figure it out. I'm a little older than you. I'm 22. So how do I put this in one sentence? But basically, throughout my life, I just sort of like just follow my curiosity and just do things that are interesting. So that has led to so many different things. That has led to me like I wrote a book about like optimism, my story. So I wrote that when I was in high school, and then some people saw it and they invited me to give like a TED talk. And then after that, I was
So
like,
dope.
what's that?
So that's a you TED Talk?
Yeah, I've done like two of these things.
That's dope, man.
And then I mean maybe, but it just sort of happened. But
Yeah.
and then after that, I was like, okay, like what do I want to do with my life? Like I graduated college, not college, high school, and I was like, okay, COVID happened, and I was like, I don't really want to go to college. I just want to start a company or something. And then my mom was like, no, you should go. And like, yeah, okay, fine. And then it was COVID, and it was like weird because of all the masks and everything else. And then I was like, you know what? I'm gonna do like engineering because like that could let me do anything in the world. It's like I can learn math and physics and like I could literally understand anything. And like I could go to any library today and like I may not understand like 100% of the things, but like I understand like 90 or 80, or I could figure out a way to get there. So in college, I did that. I created my own major. So I did like engineering, computer science, but also created a talk show, which became sort of like one of the largest like talk shows in the country. So I interviewed like billionaires and like Nobel laureates and things like this.
Are you
Uh,
serious?
but but I also created like fun projects. So on a college campus, there's always events with like free food and things like that, right? So one day, for some reason, I just got the idea, just similar to how I got the idea to like email you today. It's like I got the idea of like, what if you create a Twitter bot where you automate all the free food events on campus, just for fun.
Yeah.
So I stayed up all night one day, and like the whole thing blew up, like completely like viral. I was literally getting over, I don't know, like 300,000 impressions like every single week. And like the whole campus knew about it. And my campus was pretty big, my college campus. It was like about roughly like 50,000 people. Anyway, this whole thing blew up. I was helping a lot of people.
Wow.
I don't know how
So
some of those people are. I was like, okay.
throughout throughout those interviews with those billionaires, what would you say the biggest things that you learned from them were?
I mean, so much. I mean, for one thing, it's like doing the thing, like finding the thing that just you just find like ups, like you just like you literally have to have an obsession with something, and like sometimes you don't understand where that comes from, but like they just have that, and
Right.
like that obsession just runs through them. The other thing, it's like when they were young, they weren't trying to like find like the most thing that make the most sense in a sense. Like they weren't trying to like, okay, I'm gonna go to college, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do the right internships. They were just living their life. So if they had an idea to like start a burger restaurant or whatever, like they would just do it and like not think and just do it. And then the last thing is like when they did something, it was really like personal to them. It's like if I'm doing this, like my whole identity, like person, idea of self depends on the thing I'm doing, which is like is how it should be, you know. Like if you're doing something, like most people try to do something, but like they're too cool to share it with people, or like they're too cool to like, I don't know, try hard. Like people, I don't know. I'm sure in high school, like, oh, like that kid is a try hard. And like, what's wrong with that? Like be a try hard. Like try as hard as you can and like be the best in the world. But for some reason they just don't care and they just do it.
Yeah.
Anyway.
No, that's such a cool perspective, though. I think, my personal experience, I am the personification of a smash burger, so that's proven to be very beneficial. Because, like, if Smasher doesn't do well, then I take a personal hit. You know?
Right. And like you will do whatever it is you can to make it good, like to
Right.
survive. And it's so cool because like when you have a business or something, it's like instead of just a thing to make money, it's like it could be like a way for you to like achieve like immortality in a sense. Like if you're like more like of a philosopher or artist, like that's how you would think about your business.
Yeah.
Like artist means something. It's like this is that way how I'm reaching immortality. Or even simpler, you can think of it like this is like my like persona in the world and like everything I do it comes from me in a sense, which is why it works when you have like a video that you would love, when you have a burger you yourself would love. People also love that because you know humans are not that different. Like if you really love it, chances are human psychology in the brain is also similar, so they will also love it, as opposed to like asking, okay, what do people like, and trying to like appeal to that. It's like,
Yeah.
no, like what is a video that I would like on social media? I'll make that. If it's cringy or something, like whatever. But I love it, which is similar to what you were saying.
Yeah. And that's why when I was talking about people who say get a life, or the reason why it doesn't bother me a lot is because, and it goes back to don't take advice from people that don't have a life that you want to live. It's like I don't feel that you found your purpose. You don't know what I'm experiencing on my in my mind of like how passionate I am about whether it be
Yeah,
my business or burgers in general. You know, it's just like I want to do what I want to do and I love what I do. So that's what, yeah, that's great.
yeah. No, I'll show you this thing real quick. Same. I mean, through all my life, just everyone just like the same thing. Like, oh my God, like just get a life or something. But there's this quote that I really like that I'll show you to real quick. Um, and it's like always think of that because everyone's just like, oh my God, like you should do this or whatever. um so there's this guy, really cool guy, Tyler Cowen is his name, and then he wrote this thing. It's like at some point you have to just sort of ask yourself like what are the returns of starting early and like do it until you die. And like if you want to do something that is like amazing, you do have to give up on quote unquote a normal childhood, like a normal life, to do the thing that you just want to do.
Yeah,
um, and it's like just on a different path, and it's like it's not good or better or worse or superior or inferior. It's just like this is the thing that you decided to do, and it's like it's okay. um but like chances are in your 5 mile radius, like there are not that many people doing that, but in the world it's like so many people doing interesting things.
right. No, I'm a big fan of that.
Yeah,
Because there is a there is a contemplation that comes in my head all the time where it's like, okay, what if I didn't have Smashes? What would I be doing? And maybe career-wise, I'd be a lot further behind, but I would also be partying and all that sort of stuff. But I am completely fine with sacrificing that and going all in on Smashers. And then to the same degree, it's like, you know, people who are not willing to sacrifice for what they want, that quote where it's what they want becomes a sacrifice. And delayed gratification. If I sacrifice the next 10 years of extreme hard work that I actually enjoy doing, well, then my next 30 years will be a lot more prosperous.
And more fun, It's like you could have went to college and, then you would have been asking yourself, okay, what do I do now? I graduated and do I find a job or
Yeah.
all these things.
Yeah.
A question that I'm curious about, people look at you and like, okay, he's young, successful, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Um, I'm sure there's a lot of, gold diggers in a sense. So like, how do you think of assessing who becomes like your girlfriend or whatever? Uh, like
I,
love in a
yeah.
sense.
Piece of advice for young men is I would not spend any time chasing women. And I think to the same degree, it will actually help you get more women, ironically, by not chasing.
Yep,
But yeah, I'm not interested at all in finding a girlfriend. I've seen what happens to my buddies, and it's almost like their ambitions and aspirations get castrated. And there's always that chance that you'll find the one that will push you. I think you need to be incredibly patient and very picky with that. And girls might not like that comment, and it may come off as arrogant, but if you continually work on yourself, the options will get better and better. So
but I mean, how do you get that perspective? Because like most people our age in a sense is like they're always thinking about, oh my God, they're thinking of that, and you're right, like their ambitions, their goals, they just completely get killed, and they get distracted.
I gotta be. Let me think of how to articulate this. I just classify that as another distraction for me on getting to my goal. If I think that finding a girl that could push me to make me a better Henry, I would not classify that as a distraction.
Sure.
Um, but I've seen what happens to a lot of close friends of mine's that seem to be on a good path, and they find, let's just say, a person, like not attribute it to a woman. A person that you're spending
Sure.
the majority of your time with. If that is not somebody who is ambitious like you are, or somebody who doesn't have similar visions for their life, they will hold
Right.
you back in some regard. And I think you need to be very selective with the person you decide to spend a lot of time with.
And same go with your friends in that sense. So you probably had to, like,
Yeah,
like probably there are not that many people who are.
yeah, and it's weird now because I've had a lot of conversations with close friends for that I've had for a couple of years now, and we have nothing in common anymore. And it's not like when people say you need to cut off friends, you don't have a conversation with them, say, "Hey, I'm never hanging out with you. I've outgrown you." It's really just it's a natural tendency to life to just it will fade and fizzle, and that may be unfortunate, but that is the reality. I think funny enough, Snoop Dogg explained this the best. He said, just imagine you have a rubber band around your two fingers, and
Yeah.
this is your friend, and you start climbing. Well, they start tugging that rubber band that's going to start bringing you down, and it just gets to a point where you keep expanding, stand, and then just the rubber band snaps. Um, so yeah, I would be I've seen it happen to close family members too. The person they spend the most time with can really tear somebody down.
Hmm. And like, yeah, it doesn't have to be like this life partner or something. It could just be their friends. And it's
Yeah.
like, so your closest friends are probably just your mentors at this point. Like, like who would you say your
I
closest friends are?
I have buddies that I genuinely just like busting balls with. They're good friends. There is always something that I admire about them. Like it's not all about pushing the business forward,
Yeah.
business, business, business. There's a lot of friends that are much more smarter than me that are stronger than me physically. They inspire me in different aspects.
Yeah.
And at the same time, they are people that I just bust balls with, like just crack a joke with, and they just get me. So yeah.
Mm. You have a quote in Spanish in the back. What's a
That's
quote
not
about? Or
That's not intentional. It means God bless this business and all who enter. It's this I just signed a commissary space. This was a previous construction company, but
so
it's
just there.
I don't know how to speak Spanish, but
Cool. I mean, it's a good, cool quote.
yeah,
Cool, man. Dude, this was super fun.
yeah.
Just wishing you the absolute best, and I hope all these dreams that you have, I don't hope, I mean, they will become true and real, and will become a lot better than you can even expect. So,
And
all the
likewise,
best.
man. I appreciate the conversation.
Thank you, man. All
Yes,
right.
sir. See you, boss.
Talk to you soon.
Yeah, man.